Good morning. We are so glad that you could join us this morning from your homes. We miss all of your faces and seeing you sitting out in front of us and worshiping. But we want to invite you just to worship at home. You can sing however you want to. You can raise your hands, you can dance, and there's nobody around you to make you feel weird or make you feel embarrassed. But we just want to invite you just to stand or sit and worship with us.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of a weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I've tried to hide. It was my turn till I met you. Then you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul, and your freedom is all that I know. The old name knew Jesus when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. place when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. When I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the sea. Should I ever need reminded of how I've been set free? There is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. Dead left for dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. Should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning? Either way, I will bow to the things of this world. 'Cause I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the sea. And should I ever need reminded what power set me free? There is a grave that holds no body. Now the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. And I can see the light in the darkness. As the darkness bows to Him, I can hear the roar in the heavens. As the space between within, I can feel the ground shake beneath us. As the prison walls cave in, nothing's in between us. Nothing's in between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the sea. battle, I know that's where you'll be. I count the joy come every battle, I know that's where you'll be. And Lord, we thank you this morning. We thank you that even in the midst of these trials that we're walking through, Lord, the fire that we're going through, dealing with not being able to be together, Lord, that you provide a way. You provide a way for us still to be united, Lord, for us still to connect. And so, Lord, we thank you this morning that your presence is in every house that is watching, Lord, across every city that's watching, Lord. And Lord, we thank you, we love you, we bless you this morning, and we praise your Son, Jesus Christ, who through all things are possible. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on Facebook or YouTube. We are so grateful that you are here. I have a couple quick announcements for you all before we hop into the worship and message this morning. So starting off, we are still collecting items for University Settlement, so you can drop those off here at Neo. There is some bins right outside the front door. They're looking for non-perishable items, toilet paper, peanut butter, stuff like that, whatever you are able to get your hands on. And if you're interested in donating that, please bring that here and drop it off at the front door, and we will get it over to the folks at University Settlement. Also, we are wanting to let you all know as soon as possible when we are going to be back together as a church family here at Neo. So stay posted on our social media and website for when we announce which date we are planning on meeting together again. Also, going forward, the men's retreat, you guys can stay posted on the men's Facebook page or through an email possibly from Martin or Jeremy soon, giving you guys an update on what that's going to look like. So once again, thank you for being here, and we cannot wait to worship with you this morning and see what God does through Jeremy's message.
Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for logging in. Thank you so much for joining us in this online service. We appreciate you being a part of it. Of course, we're here, you're there, but that's okay. And you're in your PJs, you're comfortable, and that's wonderful. Don't get too comfy. I heard there were quite a few this last week that were starting to enjoy this online thing, and we want to make sure that you don't enjoy it too much because we want you to come back here. We love being together, and I love this building being filled up, and I cannot wait for us to be able to come back together. I know Hunter just gave you some announcements, and I want to give you a few more announcements. Baptism. We still have this on the schedule. This is for May. We're looking forward to it. We can't wait. I can't wait to dunk happy. I can't wait to be able to just enjoy. That's one of my most favorite Sundays of the year. And I really do look forward to that week. So make sure if you are thinking about getting baptized, please know that this is something that is a milestone in your spiritual journey. This is something that you need to do. This is something that is commanded in Scripture. So if God is laying it on your heart, I encourage you to start thinking through it, start praying through it. It's coming up in May. We're hoping to have an outdoor service. It's going to be a good time. We have a big tent reserved. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a good time with that. The men's retreat, once again, that was mentioned before, but it's still scheduled. We're praying that we can still have that, and that campground doesn't close down. If you're new, if you don't typically go here to Neo, thank you so much for jumping in and tuning in and being a part of the service as well. I don't know where you stand with God, or I don't really know your spiritual journey, but thank you so much. I really believe that this service will have something for you, and you'll be able to pull something out of it. So keep praying for Easter. We hope that we can actually come together for Easter, like we said. Hopefully the barbershops and the nail salons will be open back up by then. My goodness, we might have a bunch of just hairdos that are way too big, and we might be having some problems, but it doesn't matter. If we can get together, we're going to get together. So this has been, I'll be honest with you, not the easiest 2-3 weeks. I've talked to a lot of different people, and a lot of different people have given me different ideas of kind of what they're going through. The series that we're doing is called Unprecedented Times, and this is week 3 of it, and there really are, as I was sitting there thinking through it, there really are 4 different areas to this. One, of course, is just the virus and just that whole thing and trying to get our heads around what really happened and how that took place. The other part of this, of course, is the financial end. And the financial piece of this is the one that has a lot of people really scared. And that's something maybe you're dealing with. Maybe that's something that you're struggling with today. And I understand that because that's one of my fears as well. I'm a human being just like you. None of us want to think about losing our job. No one wants to think about having an issue with our work or being laid off. There's, of course, the political angle to this whole thing as well. And I don't know where you land on the political side, left, right, in the middle. You don't worry about any of it. You just leave it all up to God. But there's that whole side to this as well that can just kind of pull you in and just suck you in. There's also the fourth part of this is the social side. The social side is potentially one of the worst parts of this thing. Because so often what happens is we're being told over and over and over, you need to stay home. You can't go around anyone. You can't be around within 6 feet of anybody. Somebody said they saw a bunch of people walking down their street, and one person was on one side and one person was on the other side of the street walking down the sidewalk, and they're actually talking back and forth. I mean, they're really taking the social distancing thing to an extreme when it comes to that. So there's all these different parts to this, and it's kind of I don't know, we as Christians, it's like, how are we supposed to respond to this on top of all that? Should we believe everything we hear? Should we not believe everything we hear? So we do, of course, look in God's Word, and we do kind of, we're able to see some different things, of course, in there. I'll be honest with you. I was driving. I just kind of got to the point yesterday where I was just sick of it all. Have you been to that point yet? I honestly, I was just like, I need to get out. I went for a drive, and I smelled the smell of all smells. In springtime, one of the greatest smells that you can smell is what? Fresh cut grass. I was so excited just to smell that smell. It almost made me want to go home and get my mower out and actually start mowing the lawn. I didn't, but that was something, I don't know, it was kind of, and then of course the sun came out and the temperature started to warm up. And it just did something for my soul. It did something for my head. So I don't know. These are just definitely some weird times. Like I said, the series is called Unprecedented Times, and it's kind of like odd times, unknown times, challenging times, hard to understand times, all the above. This is just a weird time that we live in. Anyone you talk to, they're just like, I don't know what to think. I really don't know what to think. I mean, think about some people are dealing with, are my kids going to graduate here in a month or two? My kids ever going to go back to school? Am I going to get through this homeschooling thing? Like I said, real life issues here with foreclosures, businesses, that are potentially going to make it or not. People getting laid off, like I said, getting fired. These are all real things. So last 2 weeks, we talked about a lot of different stuff, wrapped all together in one. And one of the biggest things that help us understand how to get through these times is simply having good theology. Having good theology and an understanding of who God is very, very important. So often, what do? We have our mom's idea of who God is, or our dad's idea, or grandma's idea. We typically have, our culture's idea, and we get all of our thoughts and ideas of who God is through movies or television or videos. It doesn't quite add up. That's not what should happen. We should get our theology, of course, from God's Word. That's where we should get our theology. We said this as well, God still has the whole world in his hands. I know that's simple, that's kind of cliche. There's all kinds of cliche things that we can say right now, especially as Christians. We have all kinds of amazing verses, but they just kind of come out of us at times, and it's almost like, oh, that's just too good to be true. God does have the whole world in his hands. God still is in control. This did not surprise God at all. He's actually using this in a number of different ways, and that's what we have to just step back and think through and look at and go, okay, you know what? This will work to God's glory. This will work out to God's good. And of course, we ended up last week just with the return of Christ. Christ's return is seen in Scripture. And it's always unique to me because, we get excited about future events and what's to come. And, hey, are we in the last days? Hey, is this the apocalypse? Hey, you know what? Is this something that's going to, usher in the end times? And as you look in Revelation, you look in Daniel, you look in some of these different books that talk about future events, the one thing that we really need to focus on, of course, is Christ's return. And we think about this as like, oh, we can't really talk about that a whole lot. That's crazy talk. That's insane. That's weird. But it's so easy for us to talk about Christ coming, when he did 2,000 years ago. But for some reason, it gets weird when we start talking about Jesus Christ coming back again someday for his church. And that shouldn't be. But understand, that's supposed to give us comfort, and that's what we ended with last week, that's supposed to give you comfort. That's supposed to give me comfort. You know, we look at this idea of Jesus Christ coming back, and he is coming for us. If you've given your life to Christ, if you've gotten to that point in time in your life where you got on your knees, you got on your face, you said, God, I want you as my Lord and Savior, guess what? He's coming back for you. And it says very, very clearly, Paul was telling this church, he's like, you know what? You need to encourage each other in this. And if we can't think of anything else, if we just can think of Christ's return, and you know what? I better be ready. You know, and it's just like that parent that's just waiting to catch you at any moment. It's like that principal, you know, he's waiting around the corner. He's right there waiting for you to do something stupid. You know, it's like, here's the Lord. It's like any moment, any time, you know what? He could come back. So we got to make sure we're not messing up. We got to make sure we're not doing stupid stuff. We got to make sure that we are honoring him with our lives. And if we start reacting in a crazy way, whether it's, you know, to the social side, the economic side, the political, or just the, you know, the health side of this, and other people are looking in to see what we as Christians are doing, we that claim that we are Christ followers are doing, and if we're going crazy, you know, what kind of testimony is that? What does that do for anyone out there? You know, this is a time where the church can shine, but I'm afraid at times that it's not. And so the Christ return, what do we know? It's quick. It's going to be quick. It's going to be in the twinkling of an eye. There'll be a trumpet sound. There'll be, you know what? Nobody knows the exact time. Like we said last week, if someone's saying, you know what? This is the timing. This is it. Within this many days, you know what? Nobody knows. But we are to encourage each other in this. And I encourage you today in this as well. I know it sounds crazy, but Christ is coming back. You know, many of us know tough times. You know, I mean, you're sitting there in your house and you probably just, you know, maybe within this last year, you could probably say, you know what, we've had one or two times that we've looked back at and went, man, I don't know if we were going to make it, or I don't know how we made it. You know, Christians say that all the time. I mean, of course, we know how we make it, but, you know, it's kind of like we just give that glory to God as saying that. And, you know, I don't know how I made it, but you know what? God got me through. And so as we look at this situation, everything that's going on, I'm telling you, we're going to make it. But what are we supposed to do? You know, if we take everybody's advice, you know, should we just sit inside and just hang out and not do anything? Should we really, truly get like within 20 feet from each other and not go near somebody? I understand that. You know, it's like I was sitting there talking to a few of my friends this last week, and, you know, it's like the conversation starts going one way, and it's like, yeah, man, this is crazy. You know what? This thing's spreading, and millions of people probably have it right now. You know what? And people are passing along, and then you start going the other way, like, this just seems like a conspiracy. And it's just, you can talk yourself into circles, so what truly are we supposed to do? And I encourage you in this, that there's a cool passage in the Bible. And it's like, man, we always got to go back to Scripture. And I understand that, like, you're not going to open up and go, oh, you know what? In Luke 5, it tells us to do this at this exact moment in time. I understand. We are supposed to be smart. We are supposed to use wisdom. We are supposed to do the things that, you know, the health people are saying for sure. But I really feel like there's a passage that we can look at that will help us get through this time as we try to navigate and use wisdom and try to use understanding, of course, through this. So this is a passage most of you have heard about. This is a story that's a very common story, but I feel like for a time like this, it's an applicable story. I've preached on this 2 or 3 different times. What's going on in this passage? Jesus is started his ministry. He just started calling his disciples to him. So like half of them are going, you know what? I know who this man is. I know he is something special. He is something unique. He's starting to make references to him being the actual Messiah. And so some of his disciples are buying in. Others are kind of like, I don't know for sure. And some of them have seen him do these miracles, and some haven't seen all the miracles yet that he's done. And so it's just kind of early on in his ministry. And this story, it's interesting because it takes place, we see it in actually 2 of the Gospels. You have the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. You knew that, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. John's a little bit different than the other 3. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, we've said this before, they're known as the synoptic Gospels, meaning the same. So you'll see a lot of the same stories. And so this story is in Matthew, but it's also in Mark as well. And so we're going to read the Matthew account. This is Matthew chapter 8. I encourage you there at your house, grab your Bible, open it up, go in and find it if you can. You can turn on your phone if you want. It will come on the screen, probably below me somewhere. So this is Matthew chapter 8, verse 23. And like I said, it's in Mark chapter 4 as well. We'll reference that a little bit as well. So this is what's going on. Just a little bit of context for you real fast. Jesus is speaking. Early part of his ministry, he's giving a lot of sermons. He's giving a lot of stories, parables. And so he's doing a lot of preaching. And so he comes up to this area and he sees a lot of people. And so he decides, you know what, I'm going to start preaching. And there's so many people that show up, which happens quite a bit. I mean, there are times where 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 people show up. And this is not like today where you can just get a crowd pretty quick by jumping on social media and saying, hey, why don't you come on out here? You know what? This person is here and, it's pandemonium. It's craziness. No, this was like literally word of mouth. I mean, one person going to the next person to actually communicate person to person. I mean, this was insane that large crowds were coming out. This was unlike anything else. So when this takes place, when this kind of fame is starting to go around, you can imagine there are people that are jealous. You can imagine there are people that are frustrated by this. And so we see this massive crowd. This crowd was so large. Jesus was sitting there on the Sea of Galilee. He's like, oh my goodness, this is insane. So he hops into a boat to teach, which is, I don't know about you, I've never taught in a boat before. That'd be pretty awesome. I don't know how you stand up. I don't know if he pulled up a stool and sat down in this boat, but it was a big enough boat to where he could communicate and yet not lose his balance and fall in the water. And what we do know is you look at both accounts, you see all these other boats coming up to Jesus. And so there's boats around and there's people in the boats and there's people on the ground or on the beach there in the area around them. So it's a cool little, I'm sure it was like 70 degrees and it was beautiful out. I'm sure it was just a nice sunny day. I'm sure it was an amazing time. His voice could have been just incredible, just authoritative, so that's the setting, all right? That's the setting. So that's what's going on. And so he's teaching all day long, and then finally they decide, you know what, it's time to go. And so this is kind of after all that has happened. So this is Matthew chapter 8, verse 23. Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Now, this is kind of unique because some of the disciples, once again, have not been following that long. He said, you know what, we're tired. In the Mark account, he's like, we're tired. You know what, it's time to go. Let's go to the other side of the lake. And so they decided to get in this boat again after all the teaching was done and go to the other side. And so the disciples was like, you know what, that sounds like a good time. You know what, and what are they doing? They are actually following Jesus. Wherever Jesus goes, these disciples decide, you know what, I am going to follow him. You probably know where I'm going to go on this. But where and who are you following? And we're following all kinds of people. There's all kinds of voices that are speaking into your life. They're wanting you to go all kinds of different places. They're wanting you to think about all kinds of different things. They're wanting you to buy all kinds of different stuff. You have more voices being spoke into. You are following more people than ever before. We are influenced by more individuals than ever in the history of the world. How is that possible? Technology, social media, You think about this, the people that we follow, this is important because I don't know about you, but this last week I told you, I just got to a point where it's like, you know what, enough is enough. Because I'll be honest with you, I was listening to every single urgent alert that came up. If the president was speaking, the vice president, any kind of, medical person, I was reading all kinds of stuff, trying to get my head around this. You know what? I was like so involved into. I just went, you know what? I'm done. I mean, the governor, you name it, any kind of thing that came up, I was listening to. I was just like, okay, you know what? I think I got my head around this enough. And it was just like time. You know what? I'm just gonna pull back a little bit because I started, finding myself just being more in tune to what was going on around this whole thing than really truly being in tune with the Lord. That's not good. Here's the disciples. You know what? They're like, I don't know if I buy in completely. You know what? But I'm going to get in this boat and I'm going to go across this. I'm going to go across this lake with you, Jesus. That's what I'm going to do because you know what? You have not led me astray yet. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in this boat and I'm going to go. And so many of us, what do? We're like right there. You know what? You're right there. You've been to church a few times. You've been around grandma and she's told you all kinds of spiritual stuff. You're right there. I mean, you are there. You're there. And here's Jesus saying, you know what? Come follow me. Come follow me. Come follow me. And that day his disciples said, you know what? I'm going to follow you. And there was other people that got into boats around them and they were following him as well across this lake. And something kind of weird took place and something kind of strange happened. And it says this in verse 23 once again. Then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. I don't know about you, but I've seen some furious storms. I still remember one time our house about 15 years ago, and we went outside, and I'm not kidding you, those clouds were swirling above our house. And it looked like a tornado, and it felt like a tornado. I mean, nothing came down out, but we thought it was about ready to get wild and crazy. And of course, my family, they're running for the basement, and I'm outside on the front porch staring at it going, oh, this is amazing. This is incredible. This is awesome. You know, furious storm. I don't know about you. I'm okay with furious storms if I can go hide in my basement. If I'm out on the water, open sea, and a furious storm comes, that's a problem. That's a big-time problem. And if not just like a simple, storm. I mean, the mark account actually says squall. You know, this is an issue. You don't want to be on a boat when that happens. You don't want to be on a small boat, especially. You want to be on a yacht. You want to be on you want to be on something very, very large. It was big enough to where these men were definitely afraid. And then we see this phrase. But Jesus was sleeping. But Jesus, you knew this was going to happen, right? You knew this story. But Jesus was sleeping. It's like, how in the world is he sleeping through this? So often, what do? We get to the point where we go through something. We go through something, and we feel like God is just up there taking a big, giant nap. We feel like God has just checked out. We feel like God just doesn't even care. We feel like God is just not even processing it. And so often what do? We go back to God in our prayers and, it's like, hey, God, can you wake up on this one? I really need you here. And what is God wanting us to do? He's wanting us to come to him. We've talked about this a number of times. This is one reason why trials and tribulations come into our life. And so that we will actually get to that point where we are going back to him and talking to him. So often if everything is smooth and easy and simple, what are we doing? We're not looking around. This last week I was watching all kinds of stuff like I mentioned. I even watched a video. It was a kind of a lengthy movie on epidemics. What in the world? It's like no business doing that. I've been watching the History Channel here and there, and they show different, there's one show where they take all the water, out of a lake, or they take all the water out of this area of the ocean. They show you what's below. There's this one area, there's one area actually in Lake Erie that's really, really dangerous. There's all these shipwrecks. I look at this passage and you got to know this was going through their head like, this boat is about to go down. This water is coming up over the edge of the boat, into the boat. This boat is about to go down and Jesus is just in there just sleeping. He's in the stern just like napping it out. Napping it out. I don't know about you, but I love naps. This must have been the power nap above all power naps. And the disciples are sitting there having this discussion like, there's water coming here and there's this squall coming at us and these waves are, I don't know how big they were, but at least 5 or 6 feet you would think. For them to be freaked out and going crazy, and then you see Jesus is taking a nap and his disciples are going, do you think we should wake him up? Do you think he knows what's going on here? He's saying he's the Messiah. He's saying he's God, but you know what? He's pretty human. Like, why is he napping right now? And this is what these guys are having a discussion about. And of course, they go over, and we don't really know which one woke Jesus up, but I wouldn't want to be that one. It's probably Peter, most likely. It seems like that was potential. John was like the loving one. I can't imagine him. So imagine Peter just going over there and like shaking him. I don't think they poked him. Maybe they did. They went up and like just poked him a little bit to try to get him up. And he was in such a power nap, deep sleep, REM sleep, that he just wasn't moving. And of course, they kind of freak out. This is verse 25. The disciples went and woke him saying, Lord, save us. we're going to drown. We're going to drown. I mean, this wasn't, hey, Jesus, can you get up, please? There's a lot of stuff going on around us. You know what? Chaos everywhere. Can you just, comfort us a little bit? They're like, man, you need to get up. Get up, get up, get up. We're going to drown, Jesus. We're going to die. And so often, what do? We wait until we are at that point, right, in our prayer life where we go to God and we're like, God, can you wake up, please? I feel like I'm going to drown here. And he's going, why didn't you talk to me before this? Why didn't you talk to me leading up to this? Right? We get to that breaking point where we're like, well, nothing else to do. Might as well pray. Got nothing better to do. The only thing I can do right now is pray. I might as well pray. That's what we get to. The disciples are like waking him up. They're like shaking him, going, you know what? We are going to drown. I don't know about you, but drowning, that's a fear of mine. I'll be honest with you. I don't mind jumping in a lake or in the ocean or anything like that, but I always have this sense that there's something below me swimming. So that's a little bit weird. I don't have too many fears. Spiders are fine. Snakes are fine, whatever. But man, there's something lurking below. But man, drowning, yeah, that's something that kind of freaks me out, I'll be honest with you. And most of us have had some sort of experience with, being under the water too long and like you're trying to hold your breath and you can't. So this is the real deal. Now, I guarantee you, these men, half of them or quite a few of them were fishermen. So when you're on the water that long, you heard stories, and this little lake was crazy, the Sea of Galilee. Storms could just pop up real quick and there was these mountains that kind of like covered part of them. And then, it got choppy real fast. So this wasn't just like a simple little lake to go fishing on. These types of storms could pop up and did pop up quite a bit. And so there were stories of people passing away and dying through, just going out to fish and trying to make a living. So this was real. This was a real true fear. And they got to this point where they're waking Jesus up and they're shaking him saying, you know what? You brought us out here. You said, let's get on the boat and go to the other side. So now here we go to the other side. We're in the middle of this mess. Jesus, wake up. You're napping, man. What are you doing? That's the human side of that. All the men on the boat that day. And all the other people that were in their boats, they're like peeling out. They're going back. They're like, no way, we're going to the shore. This isn't happening. And it goes on. It says this, verse 26. He replied, you of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and it was completely calm. You of little faith. It's interesting to me as you look through this, these men were fishermen, right? They were used to being on the water. It's like they should have been used to a storm or two. Of course, this had to have been a bad one, a crazy one for them to respond this way. But I feel like you of little faith, he's trying to say, you know what? Hey, you know what? You guys are going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Man, you're fishermen. It's going to be okay. I need to remind you this morning of who you are. I feel like I do. You are a child of God. You're one of God's kids. You're his kids, right? You're a child of God. The promises that we see in Scripture, those are for you. Those are for me. You give your life to Christ, man, this is the beautiful thing about it. You know what? We have an eternity to live with him, right? Encourage each other in these words, right? We have eternity with Jesus. These promises are for you. And what are we doing? We're buying hazmat suits and all kinds of stuff. And, I get it. And, we're supposed to be smart and wise, and we're supposed to listen to those that are smarter than us and wiser than us in certain areas and fields. But understand we can't get to a point where we pull our trust away from God, and then we just put it all in the knowledge of the time in our society. We are children of God. Just like these were fishermen, they're freaking out. Man, you know what? Sometimes we as God's children, what do? We freak out in times where he's just going, you know what? I don't know why you're going crazy right now. I don't understand it. He says what? Ye of little faith. That was the old King James. Ye of little faith. Oh, you of little faith. Why are you so afraid? Can I ask you today, what's your fear going into this? It probably relates to one of those four, right? You're probably worried about the political side, the economic, the health side, the social side. You could be like stuck in your house and you're about ready to go crazy. And you're like, man, I don't know if I'm going to have any friends when I come out of my house. What is it for you? What's the fear that's going on in your heart right now? Whatever that fear is, I encourage you to hand that over to the Lord. Maybe it's the health side of this. Maybe you're just super afraid that, you know what, I might contract this and I might pass this on and I might contribute to somebody else getting sick, and I understand that completely. I get that. Hand that over to the Lord. Just give it to him. This is the beauty. This is what we get to do as children of God. I encourage all of us, of course, as we look through this and you see what happened here, he gets up, he rebukes the wind and the waves, and it was completely calm. He rebukes the wind and the waves. Rebuking is never it's never fun to be rebuked. But Jesus got up, he looked at it and he said, "Why, you guys have no faith, man. Come on. You should be getting a little more faith by now. You've seen me do stuff. This was after that miracle. He's done miracles at this point." So he gets up and he's like, "You guys have no faith. You know what? You have no faith." And so he says, "You know what? I'm just going to turn over here to the wind and the waves. All right, you guys are over here. I'm going to go ahead and turn over here. And I'm going to talk to the waves real quick. Don't go nowhere," right? And he starts rebuking. I don't know what he says to him, but he's just yelling at the waves and the wind, and it stops. It just completely, it's done. It's done. It just calm. And you can imagine all the disciples are like, "Oh, this is insane. This is crazy. We have entered crazy town. I cannot believe I'm on this boat. It's in the middle of the night. These waves are crazy. The squalls, everything's nuts, insane. We poke Jesus. We get him up. He almost yells at us. He yells at the waves, and now it's calm. It's calm. There will be a time, I'm telling you, that this thing will calm down. I promise you. I don't see this virus ushering into the end of the world. God's not going to let this story end with a virus. I'm going to be honest with you. You don't see that in Scripture, right? You don't see that in Scripture. Now, understand this could lead to certain things that we do see in the end times. It's very possible. We do need to figure out some things and how to prevent this from happening again, for sure. That's common wisdom. That's what we need to do. But I'm telling you, this thing will calm down, and things will calm down. And hopefully within our heart we can understand that and we can get that. So obviously the gentlemen, they're all sitting there on the boat and they're just kind of looking at each other and they're probably like, "Now what should we do? Should we go over and get some coffee? Should we, kind of cruise the other side, like go to a nice little bistro? What should we do now that everything's calmed down, everything's quiet, everything's okay?" And then we see verse 27, the men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." Man, even the wind and the waves obey him. Why would he allow this? Why would he allow this? Why would he allow this craziness to take place in their life? These are the men that are closest to him. Do we understand this? These are the men that are closest to him. And he allowed this to take place in their life. This shouldn't happen if we are close to God. This should not happen. We should not go through trials and tribulation if we are close to God. If we love God and we are giving our life to God, then we shouldn't go through anything. That's just the way it's supposed to be. But yet, over and over and over, we see in the good book, we see in Scripture that there's men and women that love Jesus, that love God, and what do? They had trial and tribulation. We see it over and over and over. Look at Naomi, look at Ruth, look at the look at Gideon, look at David, there's so many different people in Scripture that love God. Look at the prophets. Look at Elijah. He got to a point, he did some amazing things. He's responsible for half the miracles in the Old Testament. But he got to a point where he got so depressed that he just thought, "You know what? It's over. It's done. I just can't move any further. I just can't go. Just can't do this anymore." Why would God allow this? And once again, it's like you see this. It's like so often, what does this do? It's there to what? It's there to grow our faith. God allows certain things like this so that our faith will grow in him. Why did he do this to the disciples? He knew what was going to happen. Can you imagine if they didn't wake him up? I'd like to know what the story was going to be if they didn't wake him up. He was frustrated when they did get him up, but I want to know. I'm like, man, I cannot wait till we get to heaven someday. We'll be like, man, what happened if the disciples just was like, we have total faith? You know what? Those waves are just, we got Jesus on the boat, right? He's sleeping, but we got him on the boat. We got in with him. We're following him. We're going in the same direction as him. We're listening to him. We're tuning out everything around us. We're tuning out the squall. We're tuning out the wind. We're tuning out the howling. We're tuning out the waves crashing. We're tuning it all out. We're just focusing on him. We're going to move forward with him. This is what we should be doing right now. This is what we should be doing right now. We should be tuning out anything that is negative. Tune out anything that's that's bringing you down. I'm telling you, I've unfollowed people on social media. I've unfollowed them. There's certain people that are so negative and so political and so over the top and so crazy. It's just like, you know what? I didn't unfriend you, but you know what? I may have unfollowed you. I don't need your stuff popping up in my feed when I look at it and I get frustrated and upset. It's not worth it. We have to start doing that. We have to start seeing positive and negative influences in our life. We got to start seeing who we are truly following. So often we follow our culture in this world before we follow Jesus. And if we are to truly be an example during this time of craziness and peril and who knows what, we have to be in the forefront of going, you know what? I have this faith that's unshakable. It's a rock. That's the faith that we need. That's what's going to be attractive to the people in this world. But way too often, what? We respond the exact same way as our culture. We respond the exact same way as the person that does not have Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Our faith should grow during this time. Our faith should not weaken during this time. I hope you hear that loud and clear this morning. Man, I hope you hear that loud and clear. I hope you understand that. I hope you get that, because that's something that we go through trials, and some people do, man. Their faith is just shaken. And that tells me when someone's faith is shaken, that means their theology was not very strong. That means their view of God was not quite correct. Because when you go through trials and struggles, we are to count it as a blessing, according to the New Testament. This is different than what our world thinks. Many people think you're going through a trial or a struggle. It means that you've done something wrong. It means that you've ticked somebody off and you've got some bad mojo or some karma that isn't quite right. That's not the way this works. It's not the way it works. This world is imperfect. That's very obvious after the documentary that I watched. This world is definitely imperfect. I know way too much about wet markets than I ever needed to know ever. This world is messed up. It's crazy. It's insane. There's so many things that we just need to just be like, I can't even go down that road. Understand, this world is not quite right. It was at one point. Sin entered the world. Jesus Christ had to come in and make that bridge so that we could be right before him again someday. Are you? What can we learn from this? I pulled out 3 things that we can kind of sum things up with. The first thing is simply this: the Lord's timing is right. His timing is perfect. His timing is right, and we cannot, this why now, why here, you know what? And I know there's seniors that are just frustrated. There's students that are going to college, and they're like, I don't even know if I'm going to get credit or not. I'm not quite sure. I know of a number of pastors that are planters, and they're planting a church through this. And they were supposed to launch at Easter or before Easter. And you talk about frustrating. You talk about some conversations with the Lord, like, I'm trying to do your work, right? And this timing is horrible, Lord. His timing is perfect, which is weird and crazy. Who knows why? We don't know why. Someday, you know what? Hopefully it'll all make sense. Maybe it won't make sense. We'll stand before God, and you know what? We'll just be with him. It'll be amazing, incredible. But what I'm telling you this is that his timing is right. His timing is perfect. I encourage you not to question that. Just be okay with it. It might not make sense, but just be okay with it. Understand that God is sovereign. We aren't. God is sovereign. Number 2 is simply this: Jesus did not let the worries of the world prevent him from getting true rest. I love that Jesus went down that boat. He's like, man, I am tired. I don't understand quite why he went and why he went and slept at that point in time, but he was tired. This shows the humanity of Christ. This story brings out the humanity, and then, of course, we see the deity of Christ. Some people really show this and, kind of respond to this story kind of like what a story of Jonah. It's like there's a lot of similarities between the 2 stories. Jonah enters a boat, this giant storm kicks up, everybody's afraid, and then what calms down the storm? They picked up Jonah and threw him in. As soon as he enters the water, what happens? This giant whale or fish comes up, swallows him. Jesus Christ actually mentioned that story when he was on this earth. It's a true story. I know you're like, oh, that's insane. No, it's not. But what happens? He goes and hits that water, right? And then the calmness. Difference is, in this story, it's almost identical, right? Jesus goes down, he falls asleep. You know what? He's just trying to just get some rest. Crazy all around him. And then what happens? He gets up, and he is the one that actually calms the storm. right? It's like the world's way. Here's God's way. You know what? He got some rest during this time, right? This is something that we should be able to do. You know, we have nothing else to do. Like we said last week, everything's canceled. I mean, everything is canceled. So you know what? Get some rest. Just enjoy. Try to do something with your family. Try to connect with God better. And I love that Jesus went down in the middle of all this and just like, you know what? I'm going to put my head down and I am just going to get myself some rest. I'm going to get a power nap. Third thing is this. Is your faith growing or is it decreasing during this time? That's what I want to ask you today. Is it growing or is it decreasing? And you know what? There might be days where you feel like it's growing and there might be days where you feel like it's decreasing, because I'm telling you, emotionally, everybody is all over the place. You are not unique if you're like, you know what? Am I the only one struggling here? No, you're not. Because social isolation is not good for anybody. I know even the introverts out there, you know what? They need some contact every once in a while. If you're an extrovert, you are probably really having a tough time. I encourage you, man, just go to the Lord during this time. Rely on Him. Focus on Him. You know, we're entering the Easter season, and next Sunday is Palm Sunday, and this is going to be the last Sunday of this series. You're probably like, thank the Lord, let's get on to Easter. Let's get on to a Palm Sunday type service. You know, let's think beyond these present times and all the craziness that's going on. But I just felt in my heart that, you know what, we needed to at least take 3 weeks here and just address this. Because we don't know exactly how bad all this is going to get or what's going to take place, but I encourage you during this time to keep relying on God. And as the Easter season starts to come, I encourage you to just take some time and just give some time back to the Lord and focus on Him any way that you possibly can. You know, if you need to get out of the house, go for a drive and just crank up some worship music. You know what? Go for that walk in the metro parks or whatever it might be and just enjoy it. Go for a bike ride. Do whatever you need to do and just get with God. You know, where are you at with Him today? I know you're sitting there, you know, watching this on your computer or on your TV. Maybe you're with your family, maybe you're not. But where are you at with Him today? You know, you look through this series and, you know, you kind of understand this and you see what Jesus Christ did for these men. You know, is He growing your faith right now? Are you at a spot where you're like, you know what, I need to step back. I need to reevaluate my priorities. I need to reevaluate who I'm listening to. I need to reevaluate who I'm allowing into my life and to speak into my life. Some of us have people that we need to pull out of our life. It's just the truth. You allow people and you minister to people, but not every single person has the right to speak into your life. Some of us need to pull some people out because they're bringing you down. And understand there's a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts out there and what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing right now. But you know what? I encourage you, you know what? Do not let your heart be troubled. Do not let your heart be troubled. Man, think on the Lord, on the things of Him. I'm going to ask you, just as you're sitting there at your home, maybe you're outside watching this, just want to just pray with you. And if you've never given your life to Christ, I encourage you, this is the moment. And this is the time. I would love for you to be able to say, you know what? There was that weird series. Man, it was during that time where that virus broke out and I can't even remember what it was called. And, you know, you're just trying to remember back where you're like, you know what? I was listening to that service and you know what? That was the moment in time I gave my life to Jesus Christ. Man, there is no better time than today, because I'm telling you, the Lord is going to return. This life is quick. God calls it, it says it over and over and over in Scripture that this life is like a vapor. It's here one day, gone the next. We are not guaranteed any single amount of days. We're not. So I encourage you today, as you sit on that couch, as you're in that park, as you're in your car, wherever you're watching this thing, have you given your life to Christ? And if you haven't, this is the moment, this is the time. I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes. We're going to pray. I encourage you during this time just to give your life over to Him. God, this series has been kind of intense. This time right now is pretty intense. Lord, I can't help but think there's somebody on the other side of this camera, Lord. Somebody that's out there watching this that just needs you right now. Lord, my prayer is that you just come alongside of them, Lord. Lord, you created them special, you created them unique. Lord, you know every single hair that's on their head right now, Lord. You know what they are going through. You know their struggles, Lord. Help us through this time, Lord. Help us to grow our faith during this time. Help us to trust in you more during this time. Lord, there's so much going on. There's so many people that are trying to speak into us, Lord. And I just pray that we can just shut out as much as we can, Lord, the stuff that we don't need to bother with, Lord. Let the experts do their things, Lord. Let the politicians and the governments do their things, Lord. Help us to be able to make wise, good decisions on our end, Lord, but just trust in you and follow you with all of our heart. Lord, that person that's never given their life to you, Lord, my prayer right now is that they would do that. Lord, they would say those sweet words that I give you my life, Jesus. I want you as my Lord and Savior. I'm a sinner. Go ahead and admit that today. And go ahead and admit that today. I'm a sinner. I'm messed up. I need you, Jesus. I need you, God. I need you, Lord. God, we thank you so much for loving us and caring for us. Lord, as we wrap up this series, as we enter into Easter, Lord, my prayer is that, man, we could just give this time to you, these next 2 or 3 weeks, Lord, that we could just devote them to you, Lord, in the time that we have with you. God, I pray these things in your name. Amen. Hey, thanks so much for being a part of this service once again. Really appreciate you tuning in. We look forward to, of course, the day where we're able to all get back together. We're all able to just have a good time together. If you are looking and trying to figure out how to give, of course, you can give through the app. You can give through the website. We encourage that. The last few weeks, the giving has been the exact same. Praise God. I can't tell you. During times like this, we worry. We get concerned. God is faithful. You have been faithful. And we can't help but thank you for that. Also, just collecting all the food for University Settlement. We encourage you to keep doing that. We encourage you to still keep bringing food and non-perishables, any kind of deodorant or socks, anything that they need. We encourage you to still bring those. We keep taking stuff. We keep filling up those totes outside, so we encourage you to keep dropping that kind of stuff off this week. Hunter's going to be jumping on here pretty soon with the students at 11 o'clock, so just please, if you're a high school or junior high, I encourage you, of course, to jump on with him. We will do the midweek prayer. Once again, either Martin or Ryan or Hunter, somebody will be jumping on and doing that midweek prayer time. And it'll be, once again, it's just cool being able to pray for each other and see each other and just be able to connect during these weird times that we are in. Once again, thanks for hanging out. God bless. See you guys soon.